Okay, I know it seems crazy, but this is the no-shoot results. Units that break are considered to be disordered. They have lost their orders, and they also must rout. Broken troops will run a ride with backs towards the enemy, directly toward their own baseline, until they meet one of 3 criteria to rally. Actually, it's 4 criteria. I need to fix that. Routing is when troop types charge. Routing is at a charge movement rate minus 2 inches. So, broken unit, and back over here, broken unit. That's going to be a significant problem for us. We'll see what happens in turn 2. Okay, most of the orders are going to continue as they did before here on turn 2. We have the coursers, these medium horse, are ordered to engage any infantry that come forward, but they're already stuck in melee, so we'll see what happens with that. The next thing is that, so that means these guys are standing fast. I did send a new order to the billman in the vanguard here, so these 3 stands are to move to the north, to the southwest by 3 inches. So we'll see how that goes. These guys are still ordered to sweep around and attack any horsemen coming south of the crossroads here. On that side, those guys are standing fast. These guys are going to continue their 6 inches of movement to take them to 12 inches. These guys are going to continue to try and engage. These 3 units right here are trying to engage these billmen. Orders have not changed there, so we'll see what happens as this further develops. It'll be interesting. Oh, the archers were ordered explicitly to put out their stakes. Okay, so turn 2 movement. This unit was repulsed, if you recall, and so they had to retire 10 inches in good order, and then they were allowed to basically automatically rally. This unit of Bretons, however, was back here facing the rear. So because they were facing the rear, they got no chops on these guys as they turned about to withdraw in good order. They spent 2 inches of their movement turning around. They spent 2 inches to move an inch across the hill, and then they moved the rest of their movement up to 8 inches right here. They're armed with javelins, which has a range of 3, so they can't shoot during the missile phase, but they are still skirmishing between where they were in the Roman road. So this back and forth might actually go on. This is the first time I've actually seen skirmishers behave as skirmishers. These Bretons, again, they're ordered to, but because of this mess, they're not going to be able to get where they need to go that way for skirmishing. And I changed the rules on facing, so you can either wheel or you can do a formation change. What you cannot do is do a right and left face. So I do not know how I'm going to get these guys back in the battle. I think I'm just going to leave them there for now. These Bretons, however, they could not move because they already received a order due to a reaction test, which told them they had to halt, which means their former orders are actually cleared unless I reissue orders. But again, there was a reaction test here, so this was halted for 2 turns. And this heavy horse down here was halted for 2 turns. So we're going to decrement those so we don't lose track. What's going to happen in this mess is these Irish kerns were ordered to stand fast. However, this unit was broken. But before it can leave, it receives chops from those guys. That's what the blue denotes, is these guys get their chops. Meanwhile, these crossbowmen that have already sprung the ambush, this guy is still within their arc of fire. The arc of fire is defined as like the midpoint of the rear rank. And with crossbowmen, it's a 27.5 degree arc to right and left of center. So those guys are still in range. These guys already sprung the ambush, so they're going to shoot again during the missile segment. But we're going to do the chops first, then we're going to push those guys back. They could potentially pass through those guys. However, when you're routing as a broken unit, you have to divert around. There is a 3-figure wide gap here and here, so it's going to cost them 5 inches of movement of the 10, and then they'll move 5 more. So these guys might not be off the board at this point. They might get a chance to rally. We'll see. The melee here, so these guys, the heavy horse on the Lancastrian side are halted. However, these heavy horse on the Yorkish side, they have been broken. They have to turn about. They'll receive chops, and then they'll exit back the same way they came. And their movement rate is pretty extraordinary, so it's quite possible. Yeah, that's right. Movement rate is like charge -2 or charge -3. So these guys are probably going to rout off the table after they get their chops. And these guys are probably going to crash into the lines back here. The stakes are being emplaced, so I've put them out front, but the arrows are pointed inward. Next turn, during the movement segment, I'll turn the arrows outward, and that means the stakes are completely deployed. Nothing else happened back here. Billman, these guys moved up 3 inches. These guys moved up 3 inches because these horsemen are not moving forward. No issue there, no reaction tests that have to be taken. These guys, however, they're coming, so they're not being charged. This unit didn't have room to get up to speed for a charge. However, they are going to make contact here northeast of the crossroads. They do have to enter into what's called the zone of control. They have to come to grips with the enemy. I went ahead and rolled a reaction test, and oh my, look what I rolled. I rolled a 17. So most likely that's going to be uncontrolled advance, and they'll crash into those horsemen, I think at the charge rate, but we'll see. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so I have attached this leader for the vanguard to that front unit. So if he's attached to the unit and intending to fight in melee, I'll put him on top. If he's attached to the middle of the unit, I'll put him in the middle, which means he shares in missile fire. And then if he's simply, if he's attached at the rear, he's not subject to that kind of stuff, but still exerts direct control over the unit, keeps it from having to make rally, things like that. Same situation over here. I had this leader of the Lancastrian vanguard is going to join in melee with this heavy horse unit. He sees some potential for glory here, so he's right up front. These guys, meanwhile, just moved up in line 6 inches as expected, and that is the end of their orders, and they will be awaiting orders.